Hey guys, welcome. Fedora Friday number 21. Fedora Friday becomes legal today. It's again momentous occasion. We just had Hat Tuesday turn 21. Now we got Fedora Friday turning 21. And yeah, we got a good one for you guys today. At least I think this is gonna be a little bit of a change of pace, right? So we've up until now, right? Fedora Friday number 1 through 20 have all focused on movies. But I've teased the fact that we're going to go beyond movies at some point. So I figured now's a good time to start introducing some of that. And I have no idea how many of you guys watch this show. As you guys already know by now, at least you didn't have to be on the channel that long to know that I'm a big fan of Rocky. I'm a big fan of Sylvester Stallone. And I feel that this show is a contemporary Sylvester Stallone effort that I think it's worthwhile, to be honest. As somebody that's a big fan of the organized crime, like that whole mafia genre, Stallone does a good job here. Again, it's not a show that you watch for authenticity. You don't really watch a lot of Stallone stuff for authenticity, right? So a lot of folks that are familiar with that life know that this show really takes a leap. I mean, you don't really have to guess with Stallone that he's going to take liberties with that stuff. So. Hey, we got my man. Hey, what's up, Nathan?
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. The Tuckster himself. How's it going? I love the hat.
You like that?
Yeah, I
Look
love
at
the red, man. You made me almost miss
that.
wearing my red hat, my Carmen San Diego hat.
Well, this is somewhat of a special occasion. If you don't mind,
No,
I
not at
got my
all.
red. This is my Pizza Hut red roof hat, and
Yeah.
I got a little hat band on there.
All right.
So this coming week we have the Global Pizza Competition Championship.
Yeah.
So my team and I will be traveling to the Dominican Republic this
Wow. Love it.
weekend, and we've got activities all week, culminating in the global championship happening on Wednesday. We're
Yeah.
going to be compete. We're representing the United States, and we're going to compete against 8 other countries, I believe. So
Wow.
we're excited and we're getting geared up for that. So
I
I'll
love
be
it.
donning this bad boy for the next week or so.
All right. I love it, my man. I mean, that's great. One, shout out to the Dominican Republic. I spent a little time there a few years back. Really had a great time there. Nathan, I have no idea if this is your first time over in the DR.
It is. It will be. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I think you're gonna love it. The weather's certainly gonna be a nice change of pace from
Oh
what
yeah.
we've been getting here. So I love
Oh,
it, and
for
good
sure.
luck in the
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah. I think we'll do well. We'll do our best. I think, like I told the team, like just have a good time.
Yeah.
Don't stress so much about winning or not winning or whatever. Just go over there and have a good time. Enjoy the weather. Enjoy the facility, the sights.
Yeah.
Because that's something they'll never forget. The experience anyway. So.
Correct. Correct. Like I said, it's one of those things where, obviously competition sometimes brings out the competitive juices in somebody, and that brings out some anxiety. Good on you for getting the team nice and relaxed. Again, there's nothing wrong with competing. I always told that to my son when we played baseball. I said, play your game. Don't worry about mistakes. You know what I mean? When you make them, or when your teammates make them, lift each other up and have a good time and have fun. Because, like I said, I told him now it's like more or less close to 10 years since he's been playing ball at the high school level. Now he's got his
Wow.
career. And I'm like, and I always told him when he was in high school, I was like, one day you're going to be stuck in an office one day or at a job, and you're going to wish you were out there in the ball field.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. It's all fun and games. How
Yeah.
about yourself? How you been?
I'm doing well. Like I said, had a great time last night. Went out with some of my drinking buddies. We went and we did some musical bingo, which I've never
All
done
right.
before. It's like a different format on bingo based on songs, and we all had a great time. My friend William, who's another hat guy, was there. He had the crowd, in the palm of his hand. It was a great time.
Good deal. So what are you wearing today?
Well, I got my velour Celentino Queen. You know, this is you know, it's one of those pieces. I have two velour pieces, and they're not like the real Ector velour that our good buddy Steve Heck collects. They are more contemporary velours. But this is one of those hats that it just makes you appreciate one, the fabric, that felt, the velour felt, as well as Celentino. Like, Celentino is one of those brands that, you know, we see about and we hear about, but I feel like it's a little bit underappreciated, especially compared to like my other velour, which is a Borsalino. Celentino is just a great brand. It's got some history behind it as well, with the connection to Tonac. And yeah, I just felt today was a good day for it.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine that's got a couple of Celentinos, and I tell you, I've been impressed with them. They're really, they feel good. They're a really nice
Yeah.
hat. He certainly enjoys them, and yeah, I think I agree with you. It's kind of an understated brand, which just kind of popped in my head for maybe another topic for another day would be
Yeah.
like, you know, hat brands, like what's the go-to, maybe like what tiers there are,
Yeah.
you know, with some elevated hat brands, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good
No,
brand.
that sounds great. I love that idea, Nathan. I'm appreciating the great ideas. Like I said, we were talking about that just recently about the uptick in viewership, in particular for the Hat Tuesdays. Now, to be more transparent, my Fedora Fridays do better in terms of viewership in general compared to Hat Tuesdays. But I feel like some of the topics that you suggested, Nathan, have helped kick up the viewership. So I appreciate that. And you guys that are out there, if you're appreciating some of these more targeted Hat Tuesdays, let me know and let us know, because that'll kind of motivate myself and the rest of the Good Luke's board of directors to kind of come up with these ideas, and then obviously submit your own ideas, right? So it's not just limited to board members. If you want to drop a comment on a topic that you want to see covered in a future Hat Tuesday, feel free. You know, depending on the reception from my board, we will definitely oblige that. And I think we're all kind of receptive towards you know, catering to the viewership.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's a great hobby, a great you know, just platform for
Yeah.
association, and the hat community is top notch, you know,
Yeah.
compared to most. But yeah, I it's just so much fun, you know, because so many men and women are into hats, and you know, it's just
Yeah.
fun sometimes to chat about it, and that kind of provides little paths and roadways to other topics sometimes. And but it's just
Yeah.
it's just a good time. That's what we're doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, we're taking a little bit of a not necessarily detour, because I've already announced, you know, I've always set this Fedora Friday to go beyond just movies, right? We talked about TV shows. We mentioned even just musicians and music in general, right? Because we know that there's some great hat folks out there that are musicians, and even just general pop culture, art, things like that. So today, we're taking a little bit of a detour by and going into the TV shows. And this Tulsa King, I just wrapped up the season 3, on Paramount, of the Tulsa King, and I feel that season 3, even though I'm going to try to kind of give a flavor of the first 3 seasons, I feel like season 3 really was like peak hat, right? Peak hat for this show, where I started seeing a lot more deliberate attempts at showcasing some of the hats, where characters, including the main character played by Sylvester Stallone, wears a hat, in my mind, for the first time in season 3, and I love it.
Nice, nice. I've never seen an episode, so I'm gonna have to check it out. And yeah, I think, you know, Fedora Friday, just exploring that topic, whether it's movies or TVs or social personalities, you know,
Yeah,
whatever you can get into, you know, even like a top 10, right? You got to do a top 10, right? Top 10
that's right.
fedoras and movie history or something, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's all fun, and yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
we got
Ian.
my man Ian, one of our moderators here. Ian, welcome. Ian, I don't know if you caught that last I forget what episode I mentioned it, where we were talking about the Public Enemies video. that is now up over 1,800 views. It still keeps getting steadily views. Like every week, that keeps getting the most views, you know, on the channel. And I don't know, maybe the algorithm caught on to that and latched onto that. I don't know if it's Johnny Depp or just the movie itself, but either way, that was Ian's suggestion. It's one of his, if not his favorite movie. You know, so shout out to Public Enemies, man. That was a great suggestion. I think Fedora Friday in general was Ian's suggestion. So
nice.
Hey, very thankful.
Good deal. Well, Luke, I'm going to jump off, and I just wanted to kind of jump on and say hello. Yeah. I missed Tuesday. This past Tuesday was a fantastic topic. And yeah, so I'll be traveling this week. I know you guys will have a good video today, and another great topic, I think, coming for next week. So hopefully the viewers can tune into that as well. But good to see you, brother.
Likewise.
It's always a pleasure to share some screen time with you. And yeah, so I'll sign off with the good old Sam Elliott esque hat tip, and I'll say same. I'll see you next time. Same hat time, same hat channel.
All right, my friend. Thank you. Hat tip back to you, Nathan Tuck, ladies and gentlemen. You know, yeah, just appreciate every single time Nathan's able to pop in. Again, lots of busy folks here, but it's not lost on me that you guys come out and spend a little time here on the channel. Ian, again, yeah, Dillinger fans, exactly. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. Me and Paul had that conversation about the, you know, about whether the algorithm is taking into account channels that are not monetized. I gotta think it is, and that video, the Public Enemies video, it has to be an example of that. You know, I'm not monetized. I'm far from it. With just a tad over 100 views. I think we're at 116 right now in terms of subscribers. But yeah. It makes sense, right? Because essentially, you know, advertisements are still happening on non-monetized channels, and you know, the YouTube and those good folks at Google are kind of setting everything up so that they can get the eyeballs in front of those ads. So yeah, I appreciate it nonetheless. Either way, man, 1,800, that just boggles my mind for a small channel like this to be able to get 1,800 views. But yeah, back to the topic at hand. We're gonna cover this show, and again, this is one of those things. Like, I feel like I always have to apologize for my my fandom of Sylvester Stallone, but you know, he doesn't make a lot of movies that I will call really great movies, right? Meaning like from a classic cinema. Rocky will be an exception. Another exception will be Copland. You know, there's a few exceptions in there. In general, I think we kind of know what we're going to sign up for when we have a Sylvester Stallone movie, or in this case, a TV show. You know, he's going to stretch the boundaries, right? He's going to have those one-liners and those dialogue pieces. Like, okay, maybe this character is going a little much, but that's okay. I mean, I always forgive Stallone for that, because he always seems to kind of scratch that itch, right? That fan service itch. And this show, right, very similar to the movie series, The Expendables, right, where you have a lot of these like former stars or like these hit cameos, right? Stallone really knows how to do fan service, at least to me, at least somebody like a fan like myself. And this show was very interesting, right? I think we've had a couple efforts where Stallone tried to play kind of an organized crime figure. But I think they were always like comedic, right? I think its name was Oscar, which I wasn't a big fan of that movie. But this was more of a kind of a more serious effort by Stallone to portray an organized crime figure here in this TV show. And, it's interesting because I've always mentioned one of the gentlemen that we have here, Michael Francesi, who was a real life capo in the Colombo family, one of the 5 families in Italian organized crime in New York. And he has a great story with Stallone. Basically, I think Stallone was researching a part to play a well-known, very murderous gangster called Greg Scarpa, right? And essentially, a mutual friend tried to connect them to be able to go and get them to meet, because Michael Franchese actually knew the real-life Greg Scarpa, knew him well. And, he was, of course, willing to sit down with Stallone. And turns out that Stallone backed out of it because, well, apparently Stallone had some kind of bad situation or bad run-in with Michael Franchese's dad, Sonny Franchese, who was a very well-known, like essentially, mythical figure within Italian organized crime, right? It's a guy that, died at 103, did so many years in jail, never once ratted, right? Somebody that's kind of very similar, right, to maybe the General Manfredi. And that's who who Stallone plays in this show, right? Dwight the General Manfredi is a gentleman that was in organized crime, right? He was a somebody that just got out of doing 25 years in prison, right? He was a member of the Inverness, I believe is the name of the family, in New York. He gets out of prison after 25 years, right? Essentially kind of gives up a good chunk of his life. I think he's 75 when he gets out. So he gives up a good chunk of his life and then goes back to the family, expecting that they were going to offer everything up for somebody that didn't rat on anybody, right? He essentially went to jail to protect members of the family. And he comes back and finds out that he's kind of been banished, right? At least, and that's the way he views it, right? They tell him that, he's like, what do I have coming to me? He said, well, what you have coming to you is Tulsa, Oklahoma. So this is a New York guy, right? Again, he's like, Tulsa? He's like, what are you talking about? So Dwight views this as a slap in the face, right? Right? It's like, I do 25 years and you guys essentially send me away to Tulsa. At some point, one of the capos that, gets in his face, I believe it was Vince, and Dwight punches him out, right? Knocks him out cold. Now, this is where a lot of folks watching, this was right in season 1. And this is where a lot of folks really checked out with the season, right from the episode 1, because, well, if you know anything about that family, right, and they even mention it in the show, you don't hit another made man, right? Somebody that's made getting hit, even if you're a made man, you don't do that, right? There are rules, right? You do that and you die. That's something that was covered by a lot of folks that were in that life, Michael Franchese included, when they reviewed the Tulsa King. But despite that, so right off the bat, you kind of know this is not going to be an authentic organized crime, right? Italian organized crime drama, right? And it's to be expected. Stallone is not somebody that does things by the book, right? He takes liberties, right? He does fan service. And once you're able to get past that, I think you start really appreciating the character of Dwight, the General Manfredi. And, and let's get to his nickname, right? He's named the General, right? His name, Dwight, his nickname, the General, is a nod to Dwight D. Eisenhower, right? So this guy's a big fan of war tactics, right? He's well-studied, right? He spent 25 years in jail reading and bettering his mind, right? He studied things like Machiavelli, and Sun Tzu, and he quotes this throughout the show. And it makes you appreciate, even though it can come across as cheesy sometimes, it really does make you appreciate the character. He endears himself to you. And let's just go ahead and look at Dwight for what he is, which is, one, an impeccably dressed man, right? That's part of his charm, right? He's never, even when he's dressed down, he's still dressed up, right? He still looks sharp, right? So it really does make you appreciate the style of the character. Now, he doesn't really wear a hat. So you don't really see Dwight Manfredi wear a hat up until the first episode, I believe, of season 3, right? Stallone has this like really nicely done coif, a pushback hairdo, right? He's got the grays going. Everything works. He looks very distinguished throughout the show. And if you're just a fan of fashion, watching this show just to see what Dwight's going to wear next it's enough for you to watch the show, I think. But in addition to that, we do have a lot of hats in here throughout the show, but they're mostly Western hats. But we'll get to that shortly, and I'll just show you some more photos of Dwight. Right, again, get your side profile here. Again, you know, Dwight is a very, very well dressed man. Look at this. This is just, you know, everywhere he goes, you know, he's just impeccably dressed. He's got the jewelry. Nothing looks too over the top, at least to me. Right? Maybe that just says more about me than anything. But everything's like, wow, I wish I had that outfit. He always looks classy, right? He's a ruthless. This guy is somebody that has killed and can be pretty ruthless, pretty ambitious, but he always looks good. So it just makes him a guy that you want to root for, right? Somebody that, you know, maybe you don't want to become a gangster, right? You don't want to laud gangsterism, but this is an interesting role model here, right? Like he's one of those characters with an edge, right? The folks that have that moral ambiguity that you kind of root for, even though they're technically a bad guy. Again, look at the pinstripe suit. Again, just impeccable. Everything impeccable. You know, has the pinky ring and all that. You know, he's just, again, the style is there right from the get-go. And here you have, this is one of my favorite shots here because he's got the pinstripe suit, the gray pinstripe suit with the red tie, the matching red kerchief. He's got the cigar and the big glasses, the big sunshades. Just looks like a classic gangster. I love it. And essentially Dwight does take, you know, his family's orders, right, to go out to Tulsa. And wow, culture shock is an understatement, right? But Dwight slowly but surely starts assembling a crew of folks, right? He immediately goes and meets Tyson, which we'll show in a little bit. And then goes and extorts the local marijuana dispensary, right? All of a sudden, he starts doing things to be able to establish his presence per his family's orders, right? His family back in New York. However, what the family doesn't know is that Dwight is doing this for himself, right? He has no plans to kick up any money back to New York, right? The idea here was to kick up money, right? Establish yourself, kick up money back to New York, and keep the presence going in Tulsa. But that's not what happens. I mean, Dwight is there. He's like, all right, as a slap back in the face of New York, he's going to establish operations. He's going to make Tulsa his own, but he's not going to kick up, right? He's going to push back. And ultimately, Dwight does assemble a whole crew of folks, right? He's got Bodie there. He's got Tyson to his right hand there. He's got Bigfoot. Again, you might not know these characters, but I'll go into some of them, especially the ones that wear hats. And the interesting dynamic, right? Here's a video, a photo of him and Tyson, as well as Bigfoot. I mean, I consensually, you can tell who's Tyson and who's Bigfoot, right? The big guy is obviously Bigfoot, but Tyson is a young kid that drives him. He's a cab driver that picks him up at the airport when he arrives in Tulsa. And Tyson doesn't wear a hat. He's a young, impressionable kid, right? I think he's 22 or 25 in the show. And he's intrigued by Dwight, right? They kind of formed this bond where he's like, wow, there's something about this guy. He knows that this guy must be, you know, kind of a mover and shaker. And it's interesting to watch the dynamic between Dwight and Tyson. It's kind of like a father-son dynamic, even though Tyson's dad is also a pretty prominent character in the show, right? Watching that kind of like that duality, those two dual role models, right? Tyson's actual dad and Dwight, this gangster, right? Ultimately his boss, right? Because essentially Dwight does recruit Tyson to work for his organization and become part of his crew. So watching Dwight deal with Tyson every time Tyson screws up, and then watching kind of the empathy as well as the forgiveness, it really is a very touching. Again, they're doing gangster stuff, but it is watch that mentor-mentee relationship between Dwight and Tyson is very, very cool. And like I mentioned, Dwight does eventually, right? In all these photos, we didn't see him wear a hat. In season 3, episode 1, we do finally see him wear a hat. It is a very nice fedora, right? I from the looks of it, it kind of is a spingy brim. It's kind of got a decent crown on it, right? But he's got this kind of a plum colored blazer on, right? He's kind of plum colored suit and a black shirt underneath. Really, really stylish. You know what I mean? For me, I think he pulls it off. And then he's got the hat tilt, right? You gotta love Stallone, and he always has a hat tilt, right? It's just something that I gotta think it comes from Stallone, given the fact that everything we've seen of him when he wears a hat, he's always got a hat tilt, and I love it. Tilt it to the right. Gotta love that. We don't really see a lot more hat action from Stallone, I think, than the first episode. But for me, that was enough because there's plenty of other hat action here, right? And what I want to kind of move into, right, is obviously love interest, right? There's always that female lead in season 1 and part of season 2. You know, the love interest is an FBI agent, right? So Dwight has a one-night stand with a lady who's out for her birthday and ends up having a one-night stand. She ends up being an FBI agent. They quickly kind of get her off. I mean, the chemistry for me, right? The character's name was Stacy Beale. I just didn't feel that same chemistry as I feel with this other lady that eventually becomes the main love interest, right? The main female lead. And this is Margaret Devereaux, right? She's played by Dana Delaney. Obviously, you can see here the cowboy hat, right? She owns a local ranch with horses, right? They got a horse trainer. And this lady is so magnetic, right? And magnetic by herself and with every character, but particularly with Dwight. And she is somebody that and Dwight realizes this in her, is that this lady, she's got something, right? She has a street smart sensibility that somebody like Dwight really appreciates. She's very independent, right? Very sassy. And Dwight really I just love the dynamic between her and Dwight. And I'll show you some more photos of Margaret here. And every time she's on the screen, like her smile coupled with the hat, her whole rustic look looks really good. I thought. And I gotta imagine that throughout season 1 and season 2, the writers really realized that, and kind of that's why maybe Stacy Beale was kind of written off, maybe. And Margaret really stepped in as the main love interest, the main female protagonist, for Dwight. And you can see here, right, the various angles of Margaret at the ranch. I mean, she comes across really magnetic, and I love the smile, the high cheekbones, and with the hat, it just completes the look. And again, she's seen there, she's picking up a spent shell from something that happened the night before, and she's not frazzled, right? She knows what's going on. She knows who she's involved with here, right? And she's okay with that. She kind of knows what comes with that territory, and it kind of makes you appreciate this strong female kind of a lead, right? It's really great. Just some more shots here of Margaret. Again, always has that cowboy hat. Not always, but for me, I kind of focus on the shots where she's got her cowboy hat on. Usually when she's at the ranch that she owns. It's a shot of her and Dwight. Again, very great chemistry, on-screen chemistry between the two, right? I think they kind of appreciate each other. They kind of realize how they're both similar and really appreciate how they differ. And they just gel so well together. What a pairing. And I think season 2 and season 3 really more highlight that, right? Obviously, because Stacy was in the picture. But for me, I think the writers made a great choice here. I think the Margaret character is really a lot more three-dimensional than Stacy was. And I got to feel like if they were doing the research, they probably recognize that. Some more shots here. You can see in the background, that is a character that actually is played by Sylvester Stallone's real-life daughter. I believe her name is Rose Scarlett. I could be wrong about that, but she's also a recurring character. She eventually ends up working at Dwight's bar, and it's just interesting to watch, right? Sylvester Stallone bringing his daughter into his show, and the daughter really holding her own, right? I mean, I think that's something that Stallone's really good about. He's like, he knows, like, yeah, this is good. You're going to get looked at somebody that is going to benefit from the nepotism. But I think the daughter really is very charismatic, and a great character, great addition to the show. And in season 3, she becomes a lot more of a recurring face in the show. And it's just nice to see another Stallone holding their own on screen with their dad. It's just, I just think as a dad myself, it's just really nice to see. Let's see here. It's another shot here, again, with a little bit more big hair here coming out of the cowboy hat. That's an interesting thing that I noticed with this shot here, was, we always talk about like the size of the brim and how it can get diminished with bigger shoulder, meaning your brim size doesn't look so large, so wide, if you have long, broader shoulders. But this is another interesting dynamic here, is that the hair, right? The hat doesn't look so big because the hair looks big, right? You can see the hair flowing outside. So it's just funny to see the silhouettes and how they work against each other. So if you're out there and you're a female that has this kind of like longish hair, kind of similar to Margaret, and you want to wear a big style brim, maybe if it's a cowboy style, then it looks really good. It looks really good, especially in this angle here with the big hair coming out. The brim doesn't look so nearly as pronounced. So just thought I'd point that out for you folks that are trying to experiment with the Western style. Maybe you're a guy that has big hair, right? We've all seen Kevin with his longer hair, and how it used to come out from the fedora, the green fedora, the mint green fedora that he used to wear. And I thought it looked really good. So even if you're not a female with big hair, you could be a guy with the big hair, right? And you can kind of see how the silhouettes play a role in how the hat looks on you. Again, great smile, nice little profile shot here of Margaret with her cowboy hat on. Again, what a home run with this character, because it's one of those things where that Stallone is going to be the star of the vehicle, but how the character plays along and has chemistry with the other characters, really, especially the female lead, right? You see that dynamic always, the male lead, the female lead, the love interest per se, and you don't always see that chemistry. Is nice when it actually works. Another shot of them together. They just look good together, right? She's obviously you can see with the hands on the hips, right? And the cowboy hat. She looks like she could be tough enough to have a boyfriend that that is a gangster, right? It's like it's believable, right? It's like, oh yeah, if anybody could do it, Margaret could do it. She's intelligent, she's beautiful, she's sassy, she's street smart. She has all those qualities that you can imagine somebody like Dwight appreciates in a partner. Again, I always love it. It always seems like she's got her hand on her hip, at least in these like early interactions, because she's like, really? It's almost like she's incredulous at like, the way the Dwight approaches the world and approaches folks. You know what I mean? It's like he owns the room, right? Every time Dwight steps into the room or into the scene, he owns the scene. Right? He's a larger than life figure. And Margaret, in some of these early photos, you can see she's like, look at this guy, or look at this MFer, right? That's just probably something that Margaret would say. Look at this MFer. You can see this, and she's kind of giving him that look. It's like, I know what you're up to. And again, with her hands on her hips, the Dwight sitting there with his shades on, with his cigar, right, with his nice tailored suit, and she's sitting there and just kind of like, I see you, man. You know what I mean? It's just great. I love the chemistry. I really think the stills really capture some of that like sass. It's like admiration, but also kind of like, I know what's up. Again, here she's got her hands crossed, right? I just love some of these stills showing the dynamic between Stallone and Margaret. It's just great. But beyond Margaret, right, we also have some other hat characters, right? One is Armand, right? Armand is a guy that is he's in Tulsa hiding out, right? I think he's been in Tulsa for 20 plus years. He is also a former member of that life. He knew Dwight back in New York, right? And they go into some of the background story, I believe, in season 2 about how Armand came to be, right? But he knew Dwight, and yeah, essentially he was called in, right? He was called in, right? He was summoned for a sit down meeting, and he chickened out. Armand did, right? He did not want to face the music, and he thought he might get killed. He was going to go and do something, but chickened out at the end of it. End up running to Tulsa and never looked back. So it's an interesting character, and watching him treat Dwight, because at first when Dwight shows up in Tulsa, Armand notices him and thinks that Dwight's been sent there just to kill him, right? Because Dwight has that reputation of being kind of an enforcer. I just thought that this character, the vulnerability, right, the idea of somebody facing their fears, really add a lot of nuance, a lot of color to Armand. And he's played by Max Casella. You might know Max Casella from The Sopranos, right? If you're as old as I am and watch TV in the 80s, you might know him as Doogie Howser's best friend, right? The guy that will always sneak into through his bedroom window and kind of talk to him. Yeah, he's just a great character. He has that kind of that urban edge, right? He has that street smart, but throughout here, he is assimilated, right? He is basically part of Tulsa now for the last 20 years. So he's wearing the cowboy hat. He's got the aviator glasses. He's got the mustache and the rustic look, and it looks really good. Like somebody like Armand can pull this off. And you can see here, just some great shots, right? And some great high crown Western cowboy hats. I really love the hats. Again, as somebody that even though I have a couple of Western hats, it doesn't mean I don't appreciate the look. Just because I only have a couple and I don't really wear them that often doesn't mean I don't appreciate the look. Right? We all know about the evolution of the fedora, right? Before the fedora, you had the Western hat, and right in the middle, you had the open road, right? And we'll get to that in a little bit. You got Armand is basically just a tortured soul, right? He's kind of dealing throughout with the fact that, he ran away from his problems. He keeps running from his problems. And now it's seeming that his problems are catching up with him. So he's a tortured soul. He ends up picking up drinking, right? Ends up losing his wife. And then more stuff happens, but I won't spoil that part. But yeah, you can kind of imagine what somebody like this is going through, where he's kind of has to look behind his back, and that ends up looking behind his back and seeing folks from his former life, the one that he ran from, and he's scared for his life. He actually ends up trying to kill Dwight, fails to do so, and Dwight essentially confronts him, finds him, confronts him, and forces him to kind of work for him. Again, some more shots. Appreciate the rustic look, the look of Armand. You got here him without this aviator. He eventually does work for Dwight, but he's getting crushed by the expectations of having to earn for Dwight, right? Dwight said, "You tried to kill me, you failed, now you owe me. You have to kick up to me, right? You have to send me an envelope of cash, I think every week or every month. And I expect it, or else, well, don't let it happen," right? And those are more pressures that start caving in on Armand until he no longer can take it, right? At some point, he befriends some of the bad guy, and I'll show you that gentleman shortly, because he's another hat wearer. He starts befriending him to kind of see if he can get some help with Dwight, and ends up, backfiring on him. This is Armand here commiserating with Tyson. Again, just another shot here to show you. They're basically both working for Dwight at this point. Tyson's willing, Armand's just going with it because he's scared of Dwight. And speaking of villains, right? In season 1, we had a gentleman called Kalen Waltrip, who was a member of an outlaw biker gang called the Black Macadam. Interesting character, but not necessarily a hat wearer. But this gentleman shows up in season 2, and he's basically a billionaire. I believe he's kind of an oil tycoon, right? In Tulsa, right? A kind of a well-known businessman, and his name is Cal Thresher. He's played by Neil McDonough. And this is, wow, what a charismatic villain, right? He's another guy that just like the other side of the coin from Dwight Manfredi. And I feel like that's why the screen lights up when you see Cal and Dwight talk to each other, right? Because Cal by himself can command the screen just like Dwight. So I thought that was a great addition to the show. I believe it was in season 2 that he shows up. I just feel like Neil McDonough did a great job here with Cal. He's got these like bright kind of blue eyes and like the white hair, and then the dress with the cowboy outfit. And I'll show you some more photos so you can see. And then a very like magnetic smile. Even though he's a guy that's not to be trifled with, he's a guy that's not opposed to smiling in your face and then doing something evil behind that. You know, you can see here, right? Some more angles. Also, like the very rustic look. He's got the cowboy hat on. Very, very great character. At some point, Dwight does, even though they kind of have their issues, Dwight does kind of in a way win him over. But Dwight never really trusts him, right? And this is that smile that I was talking about, right? He's just one of those eyes and one of those smiles that's like, okay, he's smiling in my face, and I know I should be okay. I should feel okay, but he's still pretty much a guy not to be trifled with. All right. Well, we got another comment. I'm pretty sure this is not English. I know enough of that, but welcome. I don't know what that means. Hopefully it's not an offensive word. Somebody could maybe look that up and let me know. But yeah. Oh, God bless you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know how to say your screen name. I see Zvan. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Hopefully you're enjoying the show. Welcome. I welcome viewers from all over, English speaking and not, So yeah, I just keep showing you some of the photos. This is kind of a lighter, version of that first photo that showed you of Cal Thresher. And you can see those big eyes, right? The big light eyes, the white hair, and then the black outfit. It really does kind of give you kind of a more menacing look for this guy. And again, this is a guy that's a member of high society. He's not an outlaw biker, right? He's a billionaire businessman that is used to getting what he wants, right? And he sees that Dwight is infringing on his business, and he wants to stop him right away. Now, one thing that they share in common is a connection to Margaret, right? And they go through that a lot more in the episodes. Yeah, agreed. Nathan says this guy always plays a great hat guy. Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he's like one of those actors that I know I've seen somewhere, but I can never place him. But it's interesting. Like I said, just charismatic, wears a hat really well, and just sharp, right? Again, you could see him and Dwight really kind of seeing each other and seeing themselves in each other. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm assuming you mean the greatest is, the show, but or whatever you think is the greatest. I appreciate it. And then Cal gets involved with a Asian organized crime outfit, right? A Chinese organized crime outfit. And you can see here that he's partnering with a character called, and this is season 2, Jackie Ming, who's played by an actor called Rich Ting, right? And that's an interesting character. We won't go too much into him because, well, he doesn't wear a hat, but just watching some of the photos of him and Cal interacting, right? At some point, Cal takes Ming into as his business partner, but then quickly finds out that Ming is the one really calling the shots here. And then at some point, he needs Dwight's help to be able to get rid of Ming. And that's kind of how he becomes indebted to Dwight. You can see here some of the shots here. This is kind of a full body shot of Ming and Cal. And you can see Cal, again, very striking figure. He's got the jeans. He's got the long white shirt with the cowboy hat and the boots. Just looks really sharp. Interesting silhouette that he cuts. And you know, Ming's not a bad dressed guy either, right? Like there's not really too many badly dressed gentlemen in the show, and that's why I feel like you can really appreciate it. Ian says he played the dodgy geezer in Yellowstone. All right, I haven't seen Yellowstone yet, but that's on my list. And Zvan, I'm going to call you Zvan for right now. Zvanko, I'm going to call you Zvanko. You know, says yes. I appreciate that, Zvanko. So you can see here, right? Every single time Ming is addressing stuff, you can see that Cal becomes less trusting of him. But at this point, he's in too deep, right? So it gives you a little bit of a nuance to the character Cal, right? He's not, even though he's ruthless, right? He thinks he's in control. He finds out quickly that, you know, he's not even in control of his own business, right? And it's a really good lesson, right, for you guys out there about be careful who you do business with or associate with, right? You gotta know who's in your network. And it's funny because Dwight realizes this right early on, and Dwight even tells him, or even mentions at some point, you don't know who you're met. I know these folks, right? These folks that you're dealing with, that you're in business with, and you think that you're running things, but you're not. So it's very funny to see Dwight essentially call it the way it happens, right? And you know, it makes the prediction and just gives you another nuance, another appreciation for the wisdom that Dwight has accumulated in his 75 plus years on Earth, especially in his last 25 years in prison. Kind of another shot here. Again, very striking silhouette on Cal. You can see Ming here, kind of with his goons around surrounding Thresher. And, you know, again, slowly but surely, he's getting Thresher's getting the point that he's not in control. Very, very interesting dynamic between these two, and very interesting outfit on Ming there, right? He's got kind of a fiery shirt. It looks almost like a traditional kind of Asian style shirt. And then he's got the blazer. It looks really good. And he's got a cool hairdo, I think. Zvanko says, thanks a lot. No, you're welcome, man. I appreciate it. Again, Ming's calling the shots. And I'm not really focusing on Ming here. I'm really kind of giving you different angles of Thresher's hat, as well as his reactions to Ming, right? It's almost like Incredulous. It's like, don't you know I'm in charge here? You know, and at some point, like when he realizes it's gone too far, when Ming says, hey, I'm taking over your business, right? This is no longer yours. You either sign over your businesses to me for $1,000, right? Which is pretty laughable, right? Or you die, right? Essentially has him at gunpoint. And at that point, Cal knows that he means business, and then runs essentially to Dwight. He kind of runs to try to get help. He runs to Dwight. He also runs to his former business partner, who we'll get to in a second. Here's an interesting shot, an interesting silhouette of a Thresher with Bigfoot, right? Bigfoot's an interesting character. He reminds me, right, of Big John Studd. If you were a fan of wrestling in the 80s, you kind of knew Big John Studd. Big John Studd was like the arch nemesis of Andre the Giant, right? He was like another giant, but he was 6'10". Andre the Giant was billed at 7'5", which was not actually true. But you know, Andre the Giant was taller, so it was like always the battle of the two giants, Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd. And Bigfoot really reminds me of Big John Studd a lot. Good hair too. Let's see that same shot again. Another shot of Thresher, this time with Armand and Ming. And you can see here that Armand was trying to go to right when Dwight essentially forced Armand to be able to work for him, right? Armand ran over to Thresher to see if he could go and you know, get some help, right? Well, I think it was Thresher that went to Armand, knowing that Armand was going to be desperate, and Armand was desperate. He was desperate for money. Thresher is a billionaire, so I think he offered him $30,000 for information on Dwight, and Armand complied, right? Because he was desperate. And at some point realized that Thresher is using his information directly to make plans against Dwight, and that doesn't necessarily bother Armand as much as it is that he doesn't want Dwight to run. He's so scared of Dwight and what he's capable of that he's like, what are you doing? You can't do this. I'm gonna get killed. So again, you can see the mounting pressure on Armand, right? Kind of stuck between these two ruthless guys, technically three if you count Ming, but you got Thresher and Manfredi and Dwight putting the pressure on Armand, and he cannot take it, right? He starts boozing. Interesting dynamic. You got here Dwight here walking through the marijuana fields with Thresher. I think at this point, Thresher had already, Dwight had already helped Thresher out with Ming, and they're kind of talking over business plans. I just thought it was interesting. Then you can see Dwight's crew there. You got Tyson, Bigfoot, and on the left you got Bodie. Bodie is the owner of the marijuana dispensary that Dwight extorted. Right? They're technically business partners. I really do like Bodie, even though he doesn't wear a hat. He's kind of like a little bit of a hippie guy, but he's also kind of a hacker. Right? He's a hacker. Very interesting character. Okay, I don't know the thing. It kind of seems like it might be Polish, but I could be wrong. I'm not as brushed up on reading Polish. I speak a little Polish, but I could be wrong. You could let me know, Zvanko, what language you're speaking. But I just want to confirm, and I don't want to get it wrong. Hopefully, I didn't get it wrong. Another character here introduced, right? He's a former business partner of Thresher. Thresher brings him in first to kind of deal with Dwight, but ultimately looks for help to be able to deal with Ming. And this is Bill Bevilacqua, who's played by Frank Grillo. And you might know Frank Grillo from The Punisher. He's done a lot of, he's a very legitimate cinema tough guy. And he is a member of Italian organized crime, but he owns and controls Kansas City and had a stake to a claim in Tulsa that Thresher reminded him of. So this is another character, right, besides New York, another villain that Dwight needs to contend with, that is after basically saying, hey, you don't control things. You came here to my territory. You owe me. Right? You have to kick up to me. So that's yet another force that Dwight has to contend with. He's a great character. I think Bill Bevilacqua was a great character. I really do enjoy seeing Frank Grillo. He doesn't wear a lot of hats, right? In the show, he's usually like, if you know Frank Grillo, you know he has a tremendous mane of hair. But he does wear a good cowboy hat. He's always looking sharp, right? He dresses very rustic in the show, but he always has his hairdo. But in season 3, I think they had him more in a cowboy hat. So I thought it was really interesting. And you can see here, a shot with him and Thresher. I just think it looks really good. Okay. Ian says that language would be the Serbian or Croatian. All right. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. Zvanko, you can, confirm or deny that. Again, hopefully, I'm not able to translate. I put it on screen. Hopefully, it's not anything offensive. I don't think it would be anything offensive. But yeah, welcome, Zvanko. And like I said, speak in any language you're comfortable in. Petar Kresemir Bradvich is my teacher. All right. I'm not familiar with Petar. But yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with the idea of having a teacher or a mentor. So that's awesome. Hopefully you appreciate the hats and welcome. I appreciate your viewership. So yeah, Bill Bevilacqua is a very interesting character. Again, Dwight eventually convinces him to kind of join the fray. Right at the end of season 2, Bill Bevilacqua is meeting up with the head of the New York family, and Bill Bevilacqua ends up murdering the head of the New York family, right, as a showing to Dwight, hey, I'm the guy you want to do business with, right? Like now we're going to go 50-50 on everything we do here in Tulsa, right? And Dwight says, you earned it. So that kind of sets up season 3 in terms of Bill Bevilacqua. Great character, legitimate tough guy. I think Frank Grillo does a great job of adding some of the nuance, right? He shows a little bit of like, it's an interesting dynamic, right? He is another street smart guy that is smart enough to know that Dwight is always thinking one step ahead, right? So throughout this show, you can see even the enemies, well, actually, especially the enemies of Dwight, really appreciate his cunning, right? They're very wary of his cunning and his reputation. And Bill is no different, right? Bill is smart enough to know that Dwight is somebody that he has to be wary of. And vice versa, right? Dwight knows the same thing about Bill. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic when they kind of work together, because they don't quite trust each other, right? But they all want to make more money. So they have to kind of go in with this partnership. And then it gets us to the season 3 villain. Again, I really wish I had more photos of this gentleman. This is Robert Patrick, who plays a character called Jeremiah Dunmire. Oh my gosh. And you could see here, Dunmire is a gentleman that prefers the open road, right? Well, first of all, Robert Patrick, you may know him most famously as the Liquid Terminator in T2, right? That's the character that I remember him the most as. But Dunmire is a vicious man, right? But where's a mean open road? And remember, we talked about the idea of the Western hat and the fedora. That open road really is that perfect hybrid between the Western hat and the fedora. And man, Dunmire really wears it well in this show, right? Very sinister. He's got kind of like these they kind of look almost like the Style Master, right? Did I get that right? It's the Ray-Ban style, right? Malcolm X wore a very similar style of glasses. I believe they're called Style Masters. Those are frames, right? I wear kind of the Wayfarers, right? But the Style Master, no, so I think it's the Club Master. That's what it is. The Club Master, not the Style Master, the Club Master. And they look like Club Master frames. Looks very sharp, right? Looks very much rustic, but also distinguished and business-like. It's again, he pulls it off just as well, if not better, than Thresher. Well, maybe not. Maybe they're about the same, right? He's a bigger guy, right? He's not as lean and trim as Thresher, but definitely a lot more ruthless, right? And you can see that in how he treats even his son. Yeah, the open road. That's right. It's a great hat. Obviously, Paul on this channel, Paul Murphy, is a big fan of the open road, and it's a classic hat. I don't own one yet, but man, does it look good. And Dunmire really wears it well. And Dunmire, again, very ruthless, right? Very ruthless character. You can see the dynamic, the father-son dynamic, right? Remember we talked about the juxtaposition. We saw the dynamic, that kind of father-son dynamic that Tyson has with both his actual father and with Dwight, right? The dynamic between Dunmire and his son is a night and day difference, right? Dunmire is very cold, very demeaning, very dismissive of his son, who all he wants to do, what the son wants to do is impress and please his dad. And Dunmire realizes that, and he uses it to manipulate his son to doing things that are morally questionable. It's very interesting, and you can see the transformation in the son throughout the season. I don't focus on the son here because he's not really a hat wearer, but Dunmire, wow, for me, he is the most sinister villain that we've seen here on this show to date, right? And unfortunately, well, anyway, I'll leave it at that. Dunmire, man, you can see the brown open road here, right? In its full glory. Man, what a great hat. What a great hat. Yeah, I agree, man. It's just awesome, man. And shout out to Robert Patrick. He just played a great villain. It seems like he's always playing a villain. And obviously he's a little older now, and you can see he can still play a villain that can bring goosebumps into you. And you can see here another angle of him with his goons behind him, kind of disrupting, right? And the whole basis of Dunmire's entry here is that there's some 50-year-old bourbon that they're fighting for, right? It's interesting because we're going to have a bourbon episode coming up. And so what happens is a gentleman in town in Tulsa, makes a deal, right? He's having a rough go at it. Dunmire strikes up a deal, right? They're kind of childhood friends. Dunmire strikes up a deal to buy the bourbon off of him because it's the best bourbon there is, bar none, right? It was Montague Distillery. And Dwight steps in and essentially pays more, right? Like essentially buys him out. And when the gentleman agrees, Dunmire burns down his house with him in it, right? He burns his former friend alive because his friend chose to take Dwight's offer of double the money. And that kind of starts the chain of the animosity between Dwight and Dunmire. Really, really cool. I can hear now 1-1 and okay, I'm not sure what you were trying to say with that, but hopefully that doesn't mean my audio is not good. So yeah, another angle here, kind of a up closer angle here. You can see the brim on the open road, and you can see that scowl on Dunmire, right? Like I said, he has that perma scowl, right? I don't think you ever really see him smiling in the show. He always has this mean mug on him. Man, what a villain, and he shows you right away that there's no length that he's willing not to go through, right? He leaves no stone unturned, right? There's nothing morally that he's willing to there's nothing morally that's beyond his reach, right? And his grasp to do, including sacrificing his own family to be able to get what he wants, right? So it makes a really great villain. And I won't spoil it for you about how it all ends, but you got to know that if it's Stallone's going to come on top, right? So just interesting character. And then we'll get into the last character here that I'll focus on. And this is a guy that you all going to know and love. Well, maybe you won't love him. I love him. But Samuel L. Jackson comes in right at the end of season 3. I believe it's episode 9. So I think there's only 10 episodes in each season. Right at the end of season 3, Samuel L. Jackson comes in. He plays a character called Russell Lee Washington Jr. And he's a guy that was sent by another mob boss in New York to kill Dwight. And what you find out is that he knows Dwight, right? He was in prison with Dwight. So even though he agrees to do the hit, he ends up traveling to Tulsa, not to kill Dwight, but to warn him that there's a contract out on his head. And you got to love Samuel L. Jackson, right? Samuel L. Jackson is, besides being a very storied actor, right? A very storied character actor first before he hit it big. I think Pulp Fiction put him on the map in terms of like being a leading, a leading actor, but he was a character actor for many, many movies. And a lot of the movies he would have a hat on, right? Usually you would see a Kangol hat on Samuel L. Jackson, but he's always got a hat on. Well, maybe not always, but because he is known for the bald head as well. He's bald in the show here, but he wears this hat, right? It's a straw hat. It's kind of I really like the way that the hat looks. It's kind of like kind of a tilted a certain way. I don't know. It just looks right on Samuel L. Jackson's character. So Russell is his character, and you can see some various shots here of Russell. Russell is a badass. They established that early on. This is a guy that even Dwight, right, is fearful when he sees Russell, because even though he knows that he saved Russell's life, he knows Russell's reputation. You don't see Russell, in your town unless he's got business to do, and his business is taking people out, right? He's the best, right? By Dwight's own words, he's the best. But again, Dwight was a little scared at first, but then when he realized that Russell just came to warn him, they kind of bond, right? So it's just interesting to see, right, the dynamic, right, the on-screen dynamic with Samuel L. Jackson and Sylvester Stallone. I'm not sure if they've ever done a movie before together, but man, Stallone is so good at bringing some of these actors, these well-known actors into the fray, right? A la Expendables, right? Samuel L. Jackson is somebody that, I don't remember if he was in the Expendables. He should be, if he's not. But man, what a charismatic actor. Really big fan of Samuel L. Jackson. And the teaser here is that Samuel L. Jackson didn't just come on here just to kind of stick around per se, right? The plan for the producers is that Samuel L. Jackson's character, Russell, is going to eventually travel to his hometown of New Orleans and kind of do something very similar to what Dwight did in Tulsa, right? So there's going to be kind of I don't know if it'll be called New Orleans King or something along those lines, but whatever it is, Samuel L. Jackson is going to be the leading character in a spin-off series based in New Orleans. And I'm anxious to see that, right? So it'll probably be Samuel L. Jackson carrying the show by himself. Maybe they'll have cameos between the two with him and Dwight. But it's an interesting dynamic. And it goes to show you how successful this show has been. And this is another outfit here, right? A matching outfit, very similar straw hat. This one's kind of in a wine color. You guys already know how I feel about the color wine. Man, it just looks really good. And you know, for me, I'm not somebody that's a huge fan of just the entire matching outfit, right? But Samuel L. Jackson pulls it off. Yeah, Samuel L. can rock a hat. That he can, Nathan. I completely agree. You know, he really just and he's just charismatic. And then I feel like the charisma, the way he speaks, right? He just commands the screen. And then the hat just kind of goes along with the ride. The hat just completes the look, right? Right. We always talk about like the whole like chicken egg argument. Does the hat make the man or the man make the hat? Right. Samuel Jackson's probably like, you can kind of see like this guy would be charismatic even without the hat, but the hat helps, right? It's kind of completes the show. And this is just a great outfit. This is when he comes over to the dealership that Dwight now controls and asks for a car. So it's just really cool, a really cool shot and a great outfit. I think Samuel L. Jackson pulls it off very well. And here's a shot when he meets up with Dwight to kind of warn him about the contract on his life. Again, man, look at Dwight. Look at that outfit. I'm a big sucker for the gray suit with the black shirt, right? I don't know if you guys know you watch UFC. Dana White is a big fan of this look as well. I also own. Well, I'm trying to get back into it. It doesn't fit me anymore, but hopefully, if I keep losing weight, I'll fit back into my gray suit. But the gray suit with the black shirt, really, really sharp. Again, this is just Sylvester Stallone being a style icon. Man, this is like the opus in terms of like Sylvester Stallone style. Dwight Manfredi would be like the apex of style, at least as far as I can remember for a Stallone character, you know. But here, watching Samuel Jackson and Stallone share the screen, man, it really does remind me. It kind of brings me back to like maybe you know, I talked about before, Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in Heat. You know, or even like Sylvester Stallone and Russell. Wow. What am I? The actor. Why am I blanking on him? Escape from New York. Kurt Russell. Sylvester Stallone and Kurt Russell did a movie called Tango and Cash. And I just thought that was a really good on-screen, even though that movie probably wasn't the best movie per se. But I really did like watching Stallone facing across from Kurt Russell, right? Another badass character. And here's a kind of a shot, maybe like a photo shot take of Sylvester Stallone with Samuel L. Jackson. He's got a gun right on the front. He's got some booze in front, and Dwight's got a cigar. I just thought it was a really, really great photo, right? So this is pretty much how season 3 ends, right? You don't know where the Russell character is going, except that if you're a fan of the show, you know that the plan is to do the spin-off series. It's very, very interesting. And then you have this mob boss, the one that sent Russell out to kill Dwight, you know, Quiet Ray setting up to be the main villain in season 4. But knowing Tulsa King the way I do, they're going to have another angle in this. They obviously Bill Bevilacqua is part of this. There's another government part of this, right? So at some point during season 3, a government agent played by Kevin Pollak called Agent Musso recruits Dwight to get rid of a serial bomb terrorist, a domestic terrorist, a mercenary. and Dwight does do that, and essentially, kind of goes off the rails a little bit and sets it up so that the agent has to go and give Dwight his liquor license back, right? It's an interesting character. I'm sure that Agent Musso will come back in season 4 and will be a character and will be somebody that Dwight needs to contend with. So you have Bill, Agent Musso, and Quiet Ray in the fold, and who knows who else they'll bring into the fold for season 4. Knowing knowing Stallone and knowing his style, there'll be even more characters that he'll need to contend with. But even if it's just those, I'm intrigued. Like, I'm ready for season 4. So yeah, that has been my hat take on Tulsa King. Again, if you haven't watched the show, hopefully I haven't spoiled everything for you. It's available on Paramount, right? So Paramount is I'm a fairly new subscriber to Paramount Plus. I'm really enjoying it. Besides Tulsa King, I'm enjoying the UFC, right? I watched my first UFC event on UFC 324. That was a great event. This Saturday will be another fight night, UFC fight night. I really am loving the partnership with the UFC and Paramount Plus. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like, it's got me intrigued. So that if you're a big fan of the UFC, that's yet another reason to sign up for Paramount Plus. In addition to Tulsa King. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. This is the first show that we covered here, right? The first non-movie on Fedora Friday. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I keep hearing about Yellowstone. At some point, I'm going to pick that show up. Yeah, Ian says, what a great actor in that hat. Yeah. I agree. So many great hats. And again, this one's more angled towards the Western hat, but you can see they had the open road. We had a fedora. We had a straw on Samuel L. Jackson. There was a lot of hat diversity here, but it's mostly Western. And again, I'm a big fan of the hats, right? Like, the felt hats are no problem. Thank you, Ian. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you guys end up watching later and you guys drop a comment later on, feel free to do so. Let me know what you think of the show. Obviously season 4 is in production now. Maybe I'll do in the future after season 4, I'll do another episode wrapping up the events of season 4. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this. An update on the giveaway. I believe his name is Roger. Roger, you won this hat. I'm still waiting to hear back from you about whether you want it and work out those details. At some point, I'll have to kind of move on to the next person. But this is that Knox Fedora. Hopefully, you still want it. Maybe we'll give you through this weekend to be able to reply back. If not, then maybe Monday I will select a new person to take on the hat. I apologize. But at some point I have to kind of move forward. I just want to get the hat in somebody's hand. Hopefully, that's okay. But that has been Fedora Friday number 21, right? And you know what I'm always going to say? I'm going to say, support the channel, support all the folks in the Good Luke's network, right? Paul, Robert, Brian, Brad, and Josh. Support all those folks. Yeah, I keep hearing that, and I'm going to find out for myself, man. I appreciate the recommendation. Yellowstone is something I got. There's another show called Landman that I'm trying to get into. That's on Paramount as well. So yeah, just a lot of good stuff. Hopefully I'll have enough time to kind of get it all under my belt, and that way I'll bring you guys the best of that on Fedora Friday. But yeah, support the channel, support all the folks in the Good Luke's network. But even if you don't, right, you know what I'm going to say, right? Even if you don't support, right, the one thing you got to do, or else we'll get Dwight, the General Manfredi, after you, right? And Dwight's probably is not going to do anything harmful to you. He'll probably he'll intimidate you enough where you'll just go, boop, hit the subscribe button, right? And either way, we're all going to make sure that the one thing you always do, no matter what, is that you stay hatting, my friend. Have a great day. Ciao, everybody. Ciao.